Hey team, we're going to learn how to automate code tasks with Git Hooks using Husky. I'm Colby Fayok, and if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe for future updates. Git Hooks are a feature built in right into Git that allows you to trigger different functionality based on different events of the Git process. For instance, if we wanted to run a script every time before a commit happens, we can hook into the pre-commit hook and run something like formatting or linting or really whatever kind of test or checks we want to do with a script. Husky is a tool available in NPM that allows us to easily hook into those hooks. Once we have Husky installed, we can just add it to our package.json and then define the hooks and the scripts we want to run. So to test this out, we can really use any kind of project we want. But just because I know that I can install a new project with one line with Next.js, I'm going to use that. It's definitely overkill, but it's a good example of just being able to simply add Husky after the project is created. So in my terminal, I'm going to add yarn create next app, my Husky projects. Once it's done, I can cd into my project, run yarn dev, and I can see if I open up that link, it works. And next, to actually install Husky, we can either use npm like they show here, or we can use yarn add Husky, and I'm going to save it to dev since we only want this to run with dev, and we can see that it installed. One quick note, here I'm installing 4.3.0, which is the mainstream of Husky right now. But if you can see in their GitHub, they currently have an alpha version of v5 that's ready to be published soon. So that means if you're installing this after the v5 is officially released, the configuration and installation details might be slightly different. So now if we open up our package.json, we can see that inside of dev dependencies, we now have Husky. So now if we look at the configuration, we see that the first thing we need to do is specify a Husky object. So I'm going to add it underneath scripts, and I'm going to say Husky equals empty object. And inside that, we want to define a hooks object, where now we can define any hook that we want for Git. So that means if we look at the documentation, we can see that we have a ton of options available. You don't have to do this on your end, but I'm going to paste in a snippet that's going to include every single hook that's defined on that page. All I'm doing is specifying each hook, and then I'm going to say echo, which is basically like a console log or print statement, and it's going to say Husky, and then that hook name. What this is going to allow us to do to actually see what those look like in action. So now if I add my package.json, and I try to commit like git commit testing git hooks, we can see that during the commit process, we run the pre-commit hook, the prepare commit message, and post-commit hook. We can even see that if I create a new repo and I try pushing this out to origin, we can see that when it was pushing, it ran an event called pre-push. So to practically use this, I'm probably not going to want to have all these hooks actually running. Something I probably want to do is add a pre-commit hook. One good example of a pre-commit hook is something called Prettier. Prettier is a tool that allows us to automatically format our code. Once it's installed, we can run Prettier right, and it'll go through and format every single file that we tell it to its opinionated formatting. So to test this out, I'm going to copy the add command, I'm going to add Prettier to my project, and I'm going to save the changes just so that we can test this out. Inside my package.json file, I'm going to start off by adding a lint command, where I'm going to say Prettier, check, then all files. And if I run yarn lint, we can see that it goes through and says that it would make changes to a lot of files. So we probably don't want it to lint things like next, right? So first I'm going to add a Prettier ignore file, where I'm going to specify next and also node modules. Now if I run yarn lint again, the files that it would format makes a little bit more sense. So next, let's actually add the format command. So we're going to say format, we're going to say Prettier. This time we're going to write in the same files. And now if we run yarn format, we can see that it went through and it changed these files. If we run git status, we can even see that those files were actually changed. The hope with a tool like this is that we can make all these changes so that it's always formatted in the same way no matter how we write it. But I want this process to happen automatically so that someone doesn't have to think to actually run this command. So I'm going to add a new hook, and we're going to call it pre-commit, and we're going to tell it to yarn format. Now to make sure that we can test this out, I'm going to check out the pages directory, but this way we can see that it's actually working when it runs the pre-commit hook. So now if I add all those files, including my hook, and I go to commit it, committing my files, we can see that before it actually made the commit, it actually went through and it made those changes. The only issue is it didn't actually add those changes, it only formatted them. To fix this, we can add git add -a all, and again to test this out, we can git check out those pages. Now if we try adding the changes again and committing, we can see that not only did it actually make those changes, it also saved them to the commit. The goal here was that every time somebody tries to run a commit, it's automatically going to format the code for us and it's going to add them right to the commit. So if you followed along, you learned how to add Git hooks with Husky. We walked through a real world example where we used Prettier to format our code automatically on pre-commit. Git hooks have a lot of use cases, whether it's formatting like we did, or if you want to scan for secret keys, that way it doesn't get committed into Git. If you like this video, make sure you hit thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. Thanks for watching.